guys, I thought I'd just come on camera because honestly I'm really bored right now. But also I just wanted to come on and have a little bit of a chat. I'm gonna try and film something today, the 20th of April. And I haven't posted anything. I was really looking forward to just knuckling down and filming stuff today. Because lately, creative wise, I've just felt really flat. I've had plans made for a couple of different videos, but just haven't found myself able to really just knuckle down and do them. So I'm coming on here today because I suddenly felt motivated, which is something I haven't felt in a little while. Just trying to keep myself busy because sadly being in isolation for so long, you get kind of stuck in your own thoughts. And that's just me naturally, is I get stuck in my own thoughts and overwhelmed. But in isolation, it's gotten probably 10 times worse. So I've just been trying to keep myself busy. Rehearsals are finally happening again with my production group of Beauty and the Beast. And that was another thing too. I know a couple people saw the vlog I put up, and I did get a number of questions about why that was taken down. I'm not really going to go into it just because I want to protect people's privacy. But basically there was what I would consider miscommunication over certain things that were, I guess, appropriate to include in that vlog. And they were things that at the time I thought were okay, but turns out weren't. And at the end of the day, I'm part of an overall group that, you know, we each have to be responsible in how we conduct ourselves online because it reflects on everyone. So sadly, I don't know if I'm going to do another rehearsal vlog when things come back together. I'm really sad because that was a project of mine that I really had my heart set on, and it took me so long recording it. So many little clips I had to put together. The editing of it took, I think, almost a week. It was, you know, kind of like my pride and joy for a little bit. I was really excited because I don't get to see a lot of rehearsal vlogs, so making one of my own was so much fun. But at the end of the day, I have to be respectful of those that were involved in it, and I don't want to go offending anyone. You know, I care about those people who I work with on this musical of Beauty and the Beast so much, and they've been really helping me pull through mentally and emotionally and checking in on me all the time. So I just want to be respectful of them. Thank you to those people who did leave nice comments and told me how great they thought the video was, and all the people who really enjoyed it. I really appreciate that. It makes me feel a little bit better. Yeah, it sucks. I had to take it down. But I think I'm just one of those people, as it turns out, who doesn't do so well in isolation. I do live with my family, which is great, but it's just become a very repetitive thing where, you know, you're seeing the same people every day talking about the same things. Someone who does deal with some pretty harsh mental health issues, it's just, I'm not doing as great as I thought I'd be doing. But I think it's also been one of those things where I haven't really been doing great for a number of months now. But until then, you may not be seeing, I'm probably not going to be putting that footage up again. Yeah, just the past 5 months or so, maybe going on 6. There's been a lot going on in my personal life, which I'm not really ready to talk about on camera yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I just wanted to come on and say hi. I really want to paint today. I don't know what though. Just suddenly I just have this urge to paint. If you've been following me on Instagram, you would have seen I have been painting but I think this is just a day where I want to test myself and just force myself to sit down and to film myself painting. I've just been kind of mindlessly working at little things to keep myself busy and then going, oh crap, that would have been so great to film and put it on YouTube, and realized too late. So I've been doing some cool things. I did a really cool picture of my friend Georgia. Really liked it and shared it on her Instagram and everything, so thanks for that, Georgia. She posted this picture and it was really cool. I thought it was just really pretty, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm gonna paint that. And it's currently up on my wall at the moment because I'm really proud of it. It's kind of different from how I would usually draw. It's a little bit more pulling more realistic portraiture, and then like compared to my other stuff I've been doing, which is a little bit more stylized and doodling and stuff. So that was a big achievement for me. I've been doing quite a few watercolors. I did one which I'll post a picture of, or a little clip of, which is just of a cute little bear. I don't know why, lately I love animals, but lately I just kind of like bears. Like, it's just one of those things. I was trying a different style because I have been I really love this artist named Lee. I'm probably gonna say the last name wrong. Is it Lee Ellison? Anyway, Lee. I love Lee's videos. They're so good, and she's just got this whole style that's really different. Well, in my opinion, it's different. And it flows so nicely. So I tried a little bit of her technique. I've pretty much binged everything on her channel and I loved it. So I decided one day, I just watched a couple of her videos and started drawing and painting my own bear image. And it was really fun to do because it was a really different technique that I wouldn't normally try. This little fluff is bothering me. Stay. I give up. This is also a really different format to how I would usually do a video, because usually I just will film what I want to film and then do the intro, but I figure while the house is quiet, I will do it now. So this is strange. I'll probably try and do a voiceover. I can't talk. Oh my god. I'll probably try and do a voiceover of whatever I decide to create. I'm also just one of those people, like, it's the middle of the day, probably closer to the afternoon. My creativity kind of tends to kick in more in the afternoon/evening, which probably explains why I go to bed so late, because my brain's just suddenly like, you must draw now. You must start writing poetry at like 2 AM. I'll probably take you through my general process, but I won't get into specifics. That's something that if you guys want to see that, feel free to comment down below. If you guys want to hear about how I'm coping or things I try to do to deal with, like, trying to be creative, but also trying to deal with isolation and also trying to deal with mental health, I am more than happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments again. But it's just been a really hard couple months, and honestly it's all kind of melding into one. You know, I've lost someone I really care about. Like, they're still here, they're not dead, thank God, but it's just been really hard to deal with. And I know I have friends and family who are really sick of hearing it, but like, missing someone, I thought I knew what missing someone felt like. And I realize now that what I felt then was not missing them. It was just longing to be in their presence. And that's really hard to admit. So yeah, it kind of started off as that. Losing someone really dear to me that I loved and admittedly still love very much, and then transitioning into finishing a 3-year uni course, which should have felt like an accomplishment but didn't, and then fires, and then finding out that some of my relatives are not well to the point where they may not be around much longer. Then, you know, the holiday season, which is supposed to be a really good time of year, just being so dismal and so confusing and grief-stricken and lonely. And then, you know, the new year rolls around, and then you think you're gonna finally get your shit together because it's 2020, and then along comes, you know, a virus which shall not be named, and then isolation orders being put in by the government, finding out that I won't be able to graduate. I mean, technically I'll probably still get my certificate, which I think is still happening, I hope. Otherwise that's 3 years of uni down the drain. But then knowing that I can't go, stuck at home, you feel really lonely, you miss your friends, you miss, you know, people who used to really be a massive part of your life, and they're no longer there. And you might see them at a party or on a Skype call or on a Zoom chat, and, you know, it's painful, but it's also oddly nice because you haven't seen them in so long, so being able to at least see their face and hear their voice is a nice thing. This just kind of got depressing, so I'm just probably going to stop filming here for now. I'm going to go try and draw something, probably make more coffee and make myself even more hyped up than I'm supposed to be. Trixie. All right, I realized that was a pretty long intro, so thank you so much to everyone who's made it this far. Now I'm really getting into the art. So right now what you're seeing is just me, I guess, refining the image that I've already been trying to sketch out. My general art process can sometimes take a long time, and in this particular piece I ended up re-sketching out the idea that I wanted to paint a couple of times. I also realized that this has become quite a lengthy video. So I have tried my best to cut back on any unnecessary footage, any unnecessary parts of my art process that probably are too specific that I don't really need to go into right now. Here I'm just taking out the watercolor palette that I use probably the most often. So the palette is a Sakura Koi watercolor palette, and it's really good quality from what I've noticed. I do tend to prefer to use watercolor palettes rather than tube formulas. And I'm also just taking this little palette with pre-mixed colors from another watercolor palette, which is called the Colonial palette by Hushwing Watercolors. It's a much more pricey, a little bit more niche palette, but I've really been enjoying it. I got it as a gift So I've been loving it ever since. And right now, what I like to do with my usual watercolor process is just lay down the basic base colors first. I'm not really someone who's into the wet on, I think it's called the wet on wet technique with watercolors. I much prefer to work in layers. And right now I'm also just using a little trick that I picked up from watching some other artists online. I tend to be a little bit impatient with the drying process, so I found that using a hairdryer with the heat settings turned up a little bit really helps. And I apologize, you'll probably see Trixie quite a number of times in this video. She seems to really enjoy just coming up and getting on the dining table when I'm trying to paint. I think she just really likes sticking her face into the watercolor, and especially into my water container jar thing. Okay, so right now I'm just laying down, like I said, the base colors for everything. I'm not too certain at this point where I was heading with this. I think I just kind of took some inspiration from Pinterest and just decided to make it a nice basic portrait. And just back at it again with the hairdryer. Also, I've seen a few people use this trick, like the same technique, but with an embossing gun. I don't really have one, and I don't really have a use for one, so right now I've found that a hairdryer works just as well. One thing I have kind of noticed with this particular paper that I've been using, it's not, I don't think it's actual watercolor paper. I'm just looking at the pad right now. It's by a brand called Tech, and it's an Australian made and owned brand. And the sketch pad that I'm using is the Como sketch pad. It's A3 size, and it says that it's suitable for sketching with watercolor, pencil, ink, and crayon. But I found that this particular paper just, I don't know, something kind of happens with the pigment. I find that when I'm trying to lay down colors, if I'm putting two colors next to each other, even when the layers have dried down, they tend to bleed into each other. So you don't really get any crisp lines, even after I've dried it with a hairdryer. So that's a bit annoying. I also just like to have little scraps of the same paper lying around. You'll notice I tend to do quite a few swatches. That's just because I don't usually do color compilations before. I really should, because I've heard that it helps quite a lot. It just makes it easier to plan out what colors you're using. But for this particular, I guess, experimentation with my art process, I just decided to run with it. So you see me testing out quite a few colors in most of this video. So right now I'm just plotting out the really basic areas that I want to put light and shade into the piece. I'm trying not to be too overly specific with where I'm placing things at the moment. I find that when I'm using watercolor, unless I'm doing a painting that's much more stylized and maybe a little bit bordering on the cartoonish kind of side, I try to leave things a little bit looser because it tends to actually come out a little bit more realistic. because if you look at the colors on a person naturally, including where the shadows are hitting and where the light's touching their face, it's not always as precise. I've also noticed a lot with this paper that I'm using, it tends to really buckle. I'm someone who, like I said, likes to layer up color, and naturally using watercolor, I tend to dilute a lot of my layers down so they can kind of mesh well together. And I just don't think this paper works really well when you're someone who uses a lot of water. So that's where you're seeing a number of really strange wavy sort of shadows along the piece. So it's really annoying, but I promise that eventually it does come together in the end. Just also want to put it out there as well, guys, that this is really the first time I've actually done any sort of artwork on camera before and put it out there. So if you guys have any recommendations for me, or you'd like to make some kind of request on what you think I should paint next, or things you'd like to see art-wise on this channel, just let me know. Leave anything down in the comment section below. If you find that this is a really kind of boring and long video, you're welcome to put that down there as well, and I will try to make shorter videos with less commentary. But yeah, I just really appreciate your support. And this was also, I should add, recorded over 2 days, hence the change in the jumper I was wearing. I forgot that I started this on a Monday, and my nonna comes over on a Monday, and before anyone points any fingers or names any names, we do all practice social distancing. My nonna has been very careful. She's a very hygienic woman, but she's also, a big part of our lives, and she lives all by herself, so we try to take care of her and, spend some time with her when we can. So this portion of the video was filmed on Tuesday, I believe. So right now I'm just going in with another layer of color. This is something I like to do when I'm adding blush or when I'm adding something like freckles to the face. It just kind of warms it up a little bit. And here I'm also adding shadows to the jacket that she's wearing. I wasn't sure if I was trying to go for more of a denim jacket look or just like a, what do they call them now? Like shackets, I think is the term people are using now, where it's like a big baggy shirt that doubles as a jacket. I don't know. I just thought that this looked kind of cool. I also just want to add, if you see any redness on my hands, that is also due to Trixie. In isolation, I try to play with her as much as possible because she does get very hyped up. She's about 6 months old now or more, but she tends to use the claws a little bit much. And I also realized that my face gets in the camera a lot, so I apologize for that. I don't have a very good setup in terms of the tech I'm using at the moment, which is why the lighting is also not that great. If anyone's got any recommendations for good lighting equipment and tripod equipment and also a camera, I'm kind of just filming on my phone at the moment using an app. So if anyone's got any recommendations, leave them in the comments below. Right now, I'm just trying to add the shadows, the more intense shadows to her face, and this is where you can probably see the bleeding much more up close. It really bothers me to look at this, but it does get better in the end. It's just, that's the thing with watercolor, you kind of have to stick with it a little bit. I've just found that rather than throwing in the towel, if I just kind of keep persisting and allowing myself to have a bit more patience, it tends to come to fruition in the end. So I'm trying to use a really, really small brush, but I also feel like maybe I was using the wrong brush for this as well. It was a little bit flimsy, and I find that if I accidentally say like leave my brushes stuck in a water jug for a while, or pressed up against something, they can bend out of shape pretty easily. So it could just be down to the quality of the brush I'm using. And here I'm also just adding a layer of color to the hair. I think I was trying to go for a little bit more of a strawberry blonde kind of situation. I tend to do more like darker hair and brunettes, but I just wanted to try something a bit different. And here I'm also trying something a bit different. I don't usually paint plant life or florals unless it's more like in the style of like a doodle or a cartoon or something. So this was pretty new, and I actually really enjoyed this part. I've seen a lot of artists try and really loosely paint florals, and I enjoyed it. I tend to get a little bit too technical sometimes. If I am painting something floral or something in the natural landscape, it can take me a long time because I just sort of sit there and agonize over it for a little bit longer than necessary. So this was new and this was pretty fun. I also just really wanted to fill up the space and play around with the composition a bit more as well. I find that that's something I also struggle with, because I tend to either really plan out in full detail the background of an image and the main focus, or I just stick to a single object or character. So this was really testing myself. And I think it was also maybe the pressure of having the camera on me at the time, but I think it turned out okay. I think I actually kind of enjoy the florals. And here I'm just adding in a few little extra details to help fill in the sparseness. I just wanted to add a little bit of green just to get a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more variety. I just feel like it really helped the overall composition. It made it look like a wreath around her head, and I kind of like the look. I think next time though, I'm probably better off planning out the placement of a few of these leaves and flowers, because it kind of looked a bit haphazard, and some of the leaves were significantly longer than others, and it kind of threw off the balance a little bit. But overall, I think I kind of liked it.
This is also a little bit difficult, I guess. I think I'm partially ambidextrous. I find that I can use both hands for a number of different activities, but when it comes to art, I am predominantly left-handed, and this can be kind of difficult when your paint needs to dry, but you have to get to the other side of the page. And I was really trying to keep the paper really straight for the sake of recording. And here was where I started to really get into the finer details of the hair. I really enjoy painting hair. There's just something that's really calming and fun about doing the strands, but I also try not to get too pedantic about it, because I find that if I'm going to draw every single strand of hair, I'm going to be there for days. Looking back, I'm not too sure if I'm liking the exact direction that the hair was going in. It looks a bit boxy to me, but again, this was mainly just about experimentation and trying something new for the first time on camera. I think overall I did pretty well. I'm also not really used to doing line work with a brush. I find that I'm someone who prefers to pull out a fine liner or a pen to go over things and define them, but I just felt like doing that was gonna make it really, really stark. I only really have dark, really pigmented like black inks and brown inks and reds to do line work with, and I just felt like it wasn't gonna suit the softness of the image. And here again, I'm just reinforcing a more warm-toned, yellowish kind of color. And again, just back in with the hairdryer. It really does help for someone like me who's not always as patient. If it's a smaller piece, I don't mind, but considering this was an A3 sized portrait, I just didn't want to hang around because it was already taking me like 2 days to film. And that's another thing too. I've had a few people ask me when new videos are coming out, and I get a little bit embarrassed, I guess, because it's never actually occurred to me how long my process takes me to do. So now that I know, I think I'm gonna start planning things well in advance, and while I'm in isolation, I might as well just use up my time wisely. So right now, this is when things have all dried down and I'm getting out my Prismacolor Premier colored pencils. I have the 48 pack, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really much of a colored pencil person. I originally, I think, started pulling out the colored pencils probably a year or two ago. And I've just really used things like Faber-Castell and Derwent's in the past, and I didn't really like them, especially the Derwent's. There's just something about them that I don't really like. I think it's the quality of the pigment, I don't know. But I got this 48 pack of Prismacolors for actually my 21st birthday last year, and oh my god, I really like them, I really do. And like, there's just something about the quality of the pigment. It makes me want to try different colors. It makes me want to just really even just do full, completely colored penciled images. I mean, I like mixed media, but this makes me want to just completely sketch only with pencil sometime. So anyway, I digress. Right now, I have just put in the details for her eyes and her eyebrows, and I'm doing the line work actually in a dark chocolatey brown color. I just felt like outlining this in black would look a little bit too stark, and I wanted it to have a little bit of softness to it because I feel like her facial expressions and the overall composition is still quite soft, and I wanted to kind of keep it that way. So I'm just going in, this is a little trick that I use just to reinforce the colors in the image and add a bit more dimension. So I'm adding this peach to her lips just to make them seem a little bit fuller, and adding a tinge of red as well for a bit of shadows, and just to soften it up so it's not too red, I went in with the peach again. And I also went in with the peach on the cheeks just to give her a warm complexion. I tend to prefer peachier warm tones just because I find sometimes pinks are a bit too bright for me. And now I'm just going in with this more red toned, I want to say like a burnt orange, but I think it's more of like a brick red toned brown. And I'm just going in and putting in the finer details of her hair. I'm not going to go in and do every single strand because, again, that would take forever. And I really want to let the color of the hair stand out. But this is mainly just to add, you know, single strands and make it look a bit more loose. I think I really like when I add colored pencils as well, because it just makes things look like it looks complete. I don't think I would have been able to complete this whole image with just watercolor alone. So I think this was a good idea. Like I said, I don't usually incorporate a lot of colored pencil, but this 48 pack of Prismacolors really makes me want to. And here I'm just going back in with the dark brown and accentuating all the lines. I'm trying to change up the colors as well that I'm using. I find that sometimes using the same color to outline the entire piece makes the whole thing look a little bit, not flat, but just it loses a little bit of interest, I guess, in the colors. So for the outlining of her black tank top, I'm using black. I'm going back in with a little bit more of the peach as well on her shoulders and her chest, just, you know, give her skin a little bit more life. And I'm using the brown on her skin and just going in on her jacket with this really dark navy. Looking back at the picture in front of me, I feel like I might have chosen a slightly wrong or clashing shade of dark blue. It's much more on the dark greeny, like teal side, which I think I needed a little bit more of an indigo. But that's okay, you know. You gotta take this stuff as it comes and take it as a lesson for next time. So yeah, and I'm just adding a little bit of extra detail with the creases on her jacket and a little bit of the stitch work as well. I didn't want to go in and add too many details to the jacket though. I felt like I wanted to keep most of the focus on her face and on the flowers around her. You'll also see me go in with the pencils and add just a little bit of shading to certain areas. I'm not putting in too much though, just because I want to leave the integrity of the watercolor, and I want the colors that I've already laid down to stand out. I don't want to be adding too much detail because I feel like that'll just take away from the sketchiness of it. Well, I mean, it's not really sketchy, but you know what I mean. And here was where I kind of thought I was going to stuff up, but looking back on it now, I actually really like that I did this. Again, when it comes to painting florals and plant life, I am someone who will sit there and meticulously draw out every single little bit of detail on a plant. But I find that that takes a long time, and then when you combine that to how I would usually draw a person or the, you know, things that aren't plant life, it just, the styles clash too much. So I like what I did here. I just wanted, again, to accentuate it and make it feel complete. Otherwise, I feel like the flowers just kind of look like lifeless little blobs of color. So I'm going in with a dark rosy sort of red, and I'm also going in with this yellow ochre color to accentuate the main larger flowers. And again, I wanted to go in with different colors because otherwise I feel like the line work would just be too stark if I did the whole thing in black. And I wasn't focusing too much on the type of flowers either. I just kind of wanted to go in and give more attention to the shapes rather than what kind of flowers were what. And the same thing with these, I guess you could call them my interpretation of lavender. These little lavender flowers, I didn't want to go in and circle every single little petal on a flower. If you look at a lavender plant, it's all very, very small details, but I didn't want to really do that. I felt like it would have just taken away from the whole arrangement. So I just went in with some squiggles. And same with some of these little darker leaves attached to the yellow flowers. I just wanted to make it look a little bit more sketchy. So the whole piece looks a little bit more cohesive, but I wasn't expecting refinement out of this. I just wanted it to feel kind of warm and sketchy. I don't know why, but for some reason, incomplete or less than perfect art pieces have this kind of warmth to them, in my opinion anyway. It just feels nice and it's not meticulous. I feel like sometimes clean lines and clean, composition just feels a bit clinical to me. It feels a bit artificial sometimes. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just my personal preference. And here is where I really just enjoy myself. I like to add gold metallic accents to things. I just feel like it helps things to stand out and gives it a little bit more interest. And so I went in with my Finetec. It's this really popular watercolor palette. I'm pretty sure it's called the Finetec Fine Metals. Is it Fine Metals? I don't know. I will find the name of it and I'll put it in the description box. And I'll try to put as much of the materials I used in the description box. So if you decide to try this at home, you can do so. I'm just using the 4th gold color, the slightly brighter one, to do her earrings. I did this really nice little star and moon earring set. And also just adding some flecks of gold all around the piece. And here I'm also just adding some highlights. I find adding just a touch of some bright white highlights really helps give the piece a little bit more dimension as well. So I'm using my Sakura Jelly Roll white gel pens, and I'm pretty sure the size I used was 08. And here I also just felt like the bottom part of the piece just seemed a little bit flatter. So I wanted to give something a little bit of interest that your eye can go to when you're not looking at the center of the piece, which is her face. So I added this cute little, well, I guess what I'm trying to create here was a little bit like an enamel pin to put on her jacket. I have been getting into enamel pins and I thought might as well put one on her as well. And of course, the final touch when I let everything dry down completely was just sign everything and date it. Okay, and here is the final piece. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I understand this is kind of a long, chatty video, so thank you for sticking around for so long. Please let me know if you have any feedback or any recommendations, any prompts or things you'd like me to try. Please put it down below. I would really appreciate it.
You enjoyed it. Thanks guys for watching. I really hope that you guys are doing okay. I know that just because I may not be doing the best, I still hope that you guys are. Spend time with family if you can. Wash your hands, take a bath, I don't know. Self-care is really important. Take care of yourself, take care of the people around you. If you are working, first of all, good for you, but also take care of yourself. Make sure that you don't work yourself too hard. You know, take time for you when you can. But yeah, communicate guys, call a friend, text someone you haven't texted in a long time. If you do miss someone and you still have the option of talking to them, please talk to them. You know, not all of us get the luxury of that. And if you do have people who want to talk to you, don't ignore them, make sure they're doing okay. If you know someone else who's got mental health issues or, you know, financial issues, or is just generally like you're worried about them, it's okay to worry about them. Like, call them, message them, you know, ask if they're okay, see if people need anything, you know. Try not to be selfish with the things that you have. Be grateful for them and appreciate them, but there's also nothing wrong in offering them to other people if they need something. Hell, if you're someone who knows me and lives near me and you really need help and you need something, give me a call. I could go on and on, but I've been ranting for a little while now, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it if you like. Any feedback you have would be most appreciated. Even if you just want to have a chat down in the comments, talk to people. Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate you all for watching this, so I'll leave you to it. Hopefully you get a video from me soon. Alright, bye guys. Yeah. No, I'm filming something right now. You can talk, I'll just edit it out. What's up?
Do you want to be Rocky Road?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Oh, we put makeup on and made ourselves a
Mom! Just for that, I'm putting you in the video. My mum just came in to offer me some Rocky Road. My mum makes really great Rocky Road, so I love it. Thank you, Mum.